Welcome to Revenge Mangan. This story takes place in Chicago. My name is Morgan Hayes. I'm 38 years old, and the day my sister and her husband decided to break into my house and strip it bare was the day I finally stopped confusing being family with being safe. I had just landed back in Chicago from a 3-day work trip in New York, still in my blazer, dragging my suitcase up the front steps of my little townhouse in Lincoln Park, thinking about nothing more dramatic than a hot shower and takeout. The first thing that felt wrong was the silence. No low hum from the fridge, no soft click from the thermostat, just this hollow echo when I shut the door behind me. Then I really looked around. The living room was empty. My leather sofa? Gone. The 65-inch TV? Gone. The coffee table? The rug? Even the lamp I'd assembled at 2 a.m. after too much coffee? All gone. My kitchen? Bare counters and an outline on the floor where the fridge used to sit. For a second, my brain went to professional burglary until I saw it. A single sheet of paper on the kitchen island, torn from one of my own notepads, with handwriting I knew better than my own. You can always make more money. We need it more than you. No apology. No maybe. Just entitlement in black ink. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I actually laughed. This sharp little sound that surprised even me, pulled out my phone and opened 2 apps. My bank and my home security. If you want to know how that one smug note turned into police at their door, and my own sister standing on my porch the very next day, begging me to save her from the mess she created, stay with me until the end. When people see the mess my life turned into, they always assume I grew up spoiled and entitled, like I somehow deserved it. The truth is, when I was 18, the only thing I owned was a half-packed duffel bag and a stack of college brochures. My parents died on a highway outside Joliet when a drunk driver crossed the median and hit them head-on. One phone call from the state trooper, and my entire world snapped in half. My sister was 23 then, already married, already working, already doing the grown-up thing in a tiny apartment in the city. While our aunts and uncles were whispering about what to do with Morgan, like I was a stray dog, she just said, "She's coming with me." And that was it. She talked to financial aid, picked up extra shifts, and somehow made it possible for me to attend a private college in Chicago instead of dropping everything to work full-time. She bought me a brand new MacBook when my hand-me-down laptop literally died in the middle of midterms, paid the security deposit on a dorm room so I could live on campus my freshman year, and slid me a couple $100s every month so I didn't have to choose between textbooks and groceries. I worked part-time at a coffee shop. But let's be real. The only reason I finished my marketing degree on time was because she and her husband quietly carried weight they never had to carry. When I landed my first job at a small advertising agency downtown, then moved up to a big digital shop in the Loop, I swore I'd spend the rest of my life paying that debt forward. I picked up dinner checks without blinking, surprised them with nicer birthday gifts than they'd ever had growing up, helped with a car payment during a rough patch, and told anyone who would listen that my sister had saved my life. So when they started asking to borrow a little money here and there for house repairs, a weekend at Lake Michigan, some overdue bills, I didn't even think to question it. In my head, it was just the natural order of things. They pulled me out of hell when I was 18, and now that I finally had a steady paycheck and a career, it was my turn to make sure they never had to feel that kind of fear again. I had no idea I was slowly teaching them that my wallet, my future, and eventually my entire house were all fair game. Moving up at the agency felt like finally stepping into the life my sister had worked so hard to give me. By 35, I was a senior account manager with a decent salary, bonuses when campaigns did well, and enough savings to stop scrolling past real estate listings like they were a fantasy. I fell in love with a narrow brick townhouse in Lincoln Park. with a little fenced yard in back just big enough for a grill and a couple of lawn chairs. I remember FaceTiming my sister from the empty living room, spinning the camera around while my voice shook from excitement. She laughed, told me how proud she was, and joked that I was officially the rich one now. At the time, it sounded sweet. After I moved in, she and her husband started coming by more often. At first, it was wholesome stuff. Sundays with burgers on the grill, kids from next door running around, cheap wine from Costco on the patio table. We would sit there talking about how far we had come from the tiny rental house we grew up in, and I honestly thought those were the happiest days of my adult life. Then the borrowing started. My sister asked if she could take my Keurig for a week because their coffee maker had died, and payday was still a few days away. No big deal. Then she needed my high-end kitchen knives because hers were too dull to cut anything. Then my extra blender for a party. Her husband started dipping into my tools in the garage, taking my drill, my stud finder, my socket set. Always for some project he swore he'd bring them back after. At first, I did not even register it as a pattern. When something did not come back, I would send a light text like, "Hey, do you still have my mixer?" and get a breezy reply, "Oh my God, yes. Sorry, I totally forgot. I will bring it Sunday." Sometimes Sunday came and went and nothing showed up. If I pushed, my sister would sigh and remind me, very casually, how she had maxed out credit cards to keep me in school, or how they took me in when nobody else wanted to. Her husband would half joke, half jab. "You make more in a month than we did in a year back then. Just buy a newer one, right?" I laughed it off at first, but something in my chest started to tighten every time I saw him walk into my garage without asking. Eventually, I changed the code on my smart lock for the side door and started saying things like, "Oh, that tool is at the office," or "I loaned that to a coworker," when they asked to take something else. On the surface, we were still smiling in family photos, still clinking glasses at birthdays, still trading memes in the group chat. Underneath, though, I could feel the shift. Somewhere along the line, my gratitude had turned into an open invitation for them to treat everything I worked for like it was already theirs. The year everything blew up, my promotions finally caught up with my lifestyle. After years of patchwork furniture and clearance sales, I decided my home could actually look like the place a 30-something professional lived in, not a college crash pad. My bonus hit, and I went all in. I bought a 65-inch OLED from Best Buy, a leather sectional that actually matched the room instead of whatever was cheapest, a smart stainless steel fridge that lit up when you knocked, a new dishwasher, even a Nest thermostat so my energy bill would stop yo-yoing. I spent weekends comparing paint swatches and scrolling Pinterest instead of clipping coupons, and I remember thinking, very clearly, this is the first time in my life my money is finally going toward me. The old stuff, though, was still perfectly usable. The basic couch, the slightly noisy washer, the beat-up but functional dining set. I called my sister one night and said, "Hey, if you want any of this, I'll help you load it up. It's yours." She laughed, but there was this edge to it. "We're good," she said. Her husband shouted something in the background about not wanting hand-me-downs. The words stung more than I wanted to admit. I shrugged it off, scheduled a pickup with a local charity, watched strangers haul away furniture I'd fought to afford, and told myself it was going to someone who really needed it. A week later, my boss told me I was flying to New York for a 3-day marketing conference. Flights, hotel, per diem, the whole thing. It felt like one of those "you've made it" milestones. I triple-checked the locks, set my smart lock, looked at the tiny blue lights on my security cameras, and headed to O'Hare with my carry-on and laptop bag. The trip itself was a blur of panels, coffee, and fluorescent hotel ballrooms. I grabbed a slice of greasy pizza in Times Square between sessions and sent my sister a selfie from the hotel bar with a joke about finally acting like a real businesswoman. She replied with a thumbs up emoji and a "Don't forget us little people" message that at the time I read as a joke. When I landed back in Chicago and dragged my suitcase up to my front door, you already know what I walked into. That eerie silence, those empty rooms, that handwritten note on my own stationery like a punchline to a cruel joke. Standing there in my gutted kitchen, I unlocked my phone and opened my security app. It took about 30 seconds of scrolling before I found them. There they were on my screen, clear as day, backing a rented truck into my driveway in the middle of the afternoon, laughing while they carried out my TV, my sofa, my boxes, even the little bar cart I'd built in a fit of Pinterest ambition. At one point, my sister walked straight up to the camera, looked right into it, and turned it slightly like she thought angling it would erase the recording. It didn't. I watched her lay that note down on my counter and smooth it with her palm. That was the exact moment whatever was left of my denial evaporated. This wasn't a misunderstanding or an awkward family favor gone too far. They had waited until they knew I'd be gone for days, broken into my house, and cleaned me out because in their minds, I would always make more money. I switched over to my banking app and, with a few taps, killed every automatic transfer I'd set up for them over the years, from the monthly grocery help to the extra 100 I sent whenever they hinted things were tight. Then I opened my messages and pulled up a contact I hadn't used in a while, a college friend who'd gone to law school and now worked as an attorney downtown. I slid my thumb over the clips from my cameras, attached the photo of the note, and typed 7 words I never thought I'd aim at my own family. I think it's time I stopped paying. My friend didn't waste time. Within an hour of me sending the videos and the note, I was sitting across from her in a small office downtown, my suitcase still in the corner because I hadn't even gone home to unpack properly. Her name is Claire. We went to college together before she went off to law school, and she has this calm, surgical way of looking at a mess and sorting it into pieces the law understands. She watched the clips twice, zoomed in on my sister's face, read the note, then leaned back in her chair and said, very quietly, "Morgan, this isn't a family disagreement. This is burglary. They broke in, they removed property, and they left evidence bragging about it." Hearing it in legal terms made my stomach twist, but it also made something in me settle. We drafted a demand letter right there. It laid everything out in cold, boring, terrifying detail. Dates of purchase for my furniture and appliances, the value of each item, screenshots from my security system showing my sister and her husband hauling them out, and a copy of the note. It gave them 24 hours to return every single thing in usable condition and pay for the damage to my lock and garage, or Claire would help me file formal charges with the police for theft and residential burglary. We sent it by certified email and overnight mail to their address in the suburbs. For the first time in my life, I hit send on something that could actually put my own family in handcuffs. That night, I barely slept. Not because I doubted what I was doing, but because I kept replaying every moment I'd handed them money or bailed them out, wondering when they'd decided that generosity made me weak. The next day, the deadline came and went with no call, no apology, no truck backing into my driveway to bring my life home. Instead, I got a text from my sister that said, "You're being dramatic. We'll pay you back when we can. Don't drag strangers into family business." Her husband added, "No way you actually go to the cops. Stop bluffing." 10 minutes after the clock ran out, I walked into the local police station with Claire's folder in my hand and my security footage on a thumb drive. The officer at the front desk looked skeptical until he watched the video and read the note. After that, everything moved fast. They took my statement, logged the evidence, and by late afternoon, there was a patrol car in front of my sister's house. I wasn't there to see it, but a neighbor sent me a photo later. My sister and her husband on the front lawn, hands behind their backs, faces white while the whole cul-de-sac watched. A few hours after they were processed and released, there was a pounding on my front door so hard it rattled the glass. I checked the camera first. There they were, standing on my porch, still in the clothes they'd been arrested in. My sister's mascara streaked down her face, her husband's jaw clenched like he was chewing through metal. I opened the door just enough to slide the chain across and looked at them through the crack. "Morgan, please," my sister sobbed, reaching for the door like she could pry it wider. "Tell them it was a misunderstanding. We'll bring everything back. We'll fix the lock. Just don't do this." Her husband jumped in, voice sharp and desperate. "You're ruining our lives over a TV and a couch. We were drowning. You have money, you can buy new stuff. They put us in a cell, Morgan. Do you understand what that means for my record?" I let them talk, let the panic spill out. And then I said, as evenly as I could, "You had 24 hours to act like family. You chose to act like thieves. This is what happens next." My sister's face crumpled like I'd slapped her. Her husband started cursing under his breath, calling me heartless, selfish, ungrateful. I didn't bother arguing. I just closed the door until the latch clicked and stood there listening to their voices fade as they finally walked away. For the first time since I was 18, I realized I wasn't the one who needed to be saved in this family. Court came faster than I expected. A few weeks after that night on my porch, I was sitting in a wood-paneled courtroom in Cook County, Claire beside me, watching my sister and her husband shuffle in wearing borrowed suits that didn't quite fit. It was the first time the judge said their names out loud in that room, Aaron Blake and Tyler Blake. And for a second, it felt like I was watching strangers. The prosecutor played the security footage on a screen, pausing on the moment Tyler jammed something into my back door, on Aaron walking out with my TV, on both of them loading my sofa into the rented truck. Then he held up the note in a plastic sleeve and read it word for word. "You can always make more money. We need it more than you." Claire had organized every receipt, every photo of my furniture and appliances in my house before they took them, every bank statement that proved what I'd paid and when. The defense tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, said they thought they had implied permission because of all the times we'd helped each other over the years, that they were just borrowing and intended to pay me back. The judge didn't look impressed. He pointed out in calm, measured tones that borrowing never required breaking a lock, waiting until someone was out of state, or leaving a taunting note behind. When it was over, he found them guilty of theft and criminal damage to property, and put them on probation for 2 years. He ordered them to pay fines of $5,000 each, and to either return all of my property in good condition, or reimburse me for the full replacement value, plus the cost of repairing my door, my smart lock, and the scraped-up floors they'd dragged everything across. I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I just felt this heavy relief settle in my chest, like finally the universe was writing down in ink that what they did was not just family drama, it was wrong. A week later, I sat in another office, this one quieter, with a different stack of papers in front of me. Claire slid a new will across the desk and tapped where I needed to sign. When I was 18, my parents' car spun across the median and I ended up on someone else's couch because they didn't have this stuff figured out. I refused to repeat that. In my original plan, if something happened to me, everything I owned would go to Aaron by default. Now, it went somewhere else entirely, to a trust that would fund scholarships and support groups for kids who lost parents in drunk driving accidents, the same kind of nightmare that had shattered us. As I signed my name, I realized I was closing the last door they'd always assumed would stay open. I didn't have to tell them right away, but word travels fast in families like ours. A cousin mentioned something he'd heard about Morgan changing her will, and within days there was another round of pounding at my door, another set of angry voices on my porch. This time, I didn't even unhook the chain. My sister's voice cut through it first, shrill and panicked. Are you seriously cutting us out? After everything we've been through? I am your only sister, Morgan. Who else would you leave it to? I looked at her through the camera feed on my phone, standing there in a wrinkled blouse, dark circles carved under her eyes. Behind her, Tyler hovered like a storm cloud, jaw clenched. You left yourself out, I said, speaking into the little microphone so my voice came through the speaker by the door. The day you broke into my house and emptied it while I was working to pay for all of our lives. This isn't about revenge, it's about not rewarding the people who proved they can't be trusted. Tyler stepped closer, eyes wild. We're going to lose the house. Do you understand that? Between the fines, the restitution, the mortgage, we're hanging on by a thread. You could fix this with one check. One. And instead, you're going to let your own flesh and blood drown? His words might have hit me once. They didn't now. I thought about late nights at my desk, double shifts, all those automatic transfers I'd set up to cushion their bad decisions. I thought about that note on my counter. I've already tried to save you, I said quietly. You chose to jump back in the water every time. I'm not going down with you. Erin started to cry, big choking sobs, then turned angry in a heartbeat, calling me cold, selfish, ungrateful, like she could shame me back into being their safety net again. I told them if they didn't leave, I'd call the police and ask about a restraining order. There was a long beat of silence, and then, for the first time in my life, my sister turned away from my door without getting what she wanted. As they walked down my front steps, past neighbors who pretended not to stare, I realized something simple and brutal. They had finally learned there was one person in this family they couldn't bully, guilt, or steal from anymore. The funny thing about finally cutting someone off is that the silence afterward is louder than all the screaming that came before. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with frantic texts about overdue bills, hushed calls about maxed out credit cards, or guilt-soaked, "Can you just help us this one last time?" messages. After the court dates, the arrests, the pounding on my front door, my house settled into this strange, heavy calm. It felt almost wrong at first, like when a loud refrigerator suddenly dies and you realize how used you were to the noise. I threw myself into practical things because that's what I know how to do. I had the locks replaced, upgraded my smart lock, and booked a security company to install a full ring system with sensors on every door and window, motion detectors in the backyard, and cameras that covered every angle my sister and her husband had once slipped through. For the first week or two, I checked the app compulsively, thumbing it open at every creak in the night. A part of me was still waiting to see their faces pop up in the feed again, waiting for another note, another violation, another reason to doubt I'd done the right thing. Instead, all I saw were Amazon packages dropped on the porch, neighbors walking their dogs, and, once, a raccoon that seemed personally offended by my trash can lid. No burglars, no family visits, just regular, boring, anonymous life. My furniture came back in waves because of the restitution order. First, the big pieces, under supervision, the TV, the sofa, the dining table. Then boxes of smaller things I'd forgotten they'd taken. My blankets, my decor, the little bar cart I'd assembled while watching YouTube tutorials. Some pieces were scratched, a few corners were chipped, and the fridge had a dent that hadn't been there before. But they were mine again. Not mine until someone else needed them more. Not ours because we're family. Just mine. I spent a whole Saturday putting everything back where it had been, wiping down surfaces, straightening frames, coiling cords. When I finally sank into my own leather sectional that night, in my own living room, surrounded by my own things, I realized I wasn't just reclaiming furniture. I was reclaiming the part of my life I'd quietly handed over. Every time I said yes out of guilt instead of choice. With the crisis over, there was this strange open space in my days where problem solving for them used to live. I didn't know what to do with it at first. I'd get home from work and catch myself instinctively checking my messages, half expecting a new financial emergency. And when there wasn't one, I'd just stand there in the kitchen, not quite sure how to just exist. So I started filling that space on purpose. I joined a yoga class at the YMCA a few blocks away, the kind with mismatched mats and an instructor who played indie music and reminded everyone to breathe. Nobody there knew who my sister was or how many times I'd bailed her out. They only knew I was the slightly stiff woman in the back row trying not to fall over in tree pose. It was the first place in a long time where I wasn't the responsible one or the one with money. I was just Morgan. On a whim, I booked a 4-day group trip to the Florida Keys with one of those travel companies that plans everything for you. I almost canceled 3 times because old habits die hard and my brain kept whispering, "What if they need you while you're gone?" Then I remembered they weren't allowed to contact me except through lawyers, and I pressed confirm instead. On that trip, I turned my phone on airplane mode for whole afternoons, floated in warm salt water, ate seafood at little dockside restaurants, and listened to strangers talk about their lives without feeling responsible for fixing any of it. One night, sitting on a pier with my feet dangling over the water, I realized it was the first vacation I'd ever taken where I wasn't secretly calculating how much I'd have left to send someone else when I got home. Back in Chicago, I updated my dating profile for the first time in years. Not because I thought a relationship would fix anything, but because I finally had emotional energy that wasn't being siphoned off by panic phone calls. I went on awkward coffee dates and a couple of surprisingly fun ones, and I noticed how different it felt to talk about my family without minimizing what had happened or making excuses for them. I bought a pair of shoes I'd wanted for months, a coat that was definitely more expensive than I needed, and I did it without immediately opening my banking app to see if I should transfer the same amount to my sister just in case. Somewhere along the way, word started to trickle back to me about how Aaron and Tyler were doing. Families like ours are small towns disguised as bloodlines. Nothing stays secret for long. A cousin told me, in a hushed voice like we were gossiping in a church pew, that they'd had to sell their second car. Someone else mentioned they'd moved into a smaller rental farther out because the mortgage on their house was too much after the fines and restitution and job losses. Another relative let it slip that Erin's background check kept costing her interviews, and that Tyler was pulling warehouse shifts that wrecked his back. None of that made me happy. I didn't dance on their misfortune or toast to their struggle. What I did feel, if I'm being honest, was a kind of distant, sober clarity. For years, I had thrown money and emotional labor at the hole they were digging, and all it had done was enable them to dig deeper. The consequences they were finally facing now were not punishments I'd invented. They were the natural result of choices they kept making long after I'd offered off-ramps. Of course, not everyone saw it that way. My phone, which had once been my sister's direct line to my savings account, turned into a grapevine of relatives with opinions. An aunt called to tell me I was taking things too far. A cousin messaged on Facebook, "They've lost so much already. Can't you at least help them get back on their feet? Family should forgive." The subtext was always the same. You have more. They have less. Why won't you bleed for them like you used to? I found myself repeating one sentence over and over in slightly different words. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. I can forgive you in my heart, wish you well from afar, and still refuse to hand you another key to my front door or my bank account. Nothing about love requires me to pretend your choices came without impact. I don't lay awake at night wishing bad things on Aaron and Tyler. I don't replay the footage of them carrying my TV down the driveway and cackle. I don't plan new ways to make their lives harder. What I do is sleep deeply in a house that finally feels safe, knowing I am no longer volunteering to be the cushion under their every fall. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's that family is not a magic word that erases consequences. People like to say, blood is thicker than water, but they forget the part where trust is thinner than glass. The people who truly love you don't keep a running tab of everything they've done for you and cash it in whenever they want your stuff. They don't turn your gratitude into leverage. They don't decide your hard work is their backup plan, and they definitely don't break into your home while you're out earning the money they feel entitled to. Setting a boundary doesn't make you cruel. Deciding that someone who has proven they will cross every line you draw doesn't get any more chances doesn't make you heartless. Sometimes, the most honest kind of love you can show yourself is the willingness to walk away from the people who keep using family as a shield for their choices. So if you're listening to this and thinking about that sibling, cousin, or parent who only calls when something is due, who makes you feel guilty every time you even consider saying no, ask yourself a hard question. Are you actually helping them, or are you just supplying the tools they'll use to hurt you again? And if you were me, standing in that empty kitchen with that note in your hand, listening to silence fill a house that used to be full of demands, where would you finally draw the line? And would you trust yourself enough to hold it? Our team at Revenge Mangan is dedicated to crafting meaningful, emotional revenge stories that reflect real-life issues while still being completely fictional. These stories are created solely to share life lessons and positive educational messages with our viewers, not to encourage hatred or real-world retaliation. This script highlights the importance of setting healthy boundaries, even within family, and shows that blind sacrifice without respect can lead to deep emotional harm. It encourages viewers to recognize toxic patterns, understand that family is not a free pass to abuse trust, and reminds us that protecting our own well-being is a responsible and necessary choice.